Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Oshia Boyd, Public Engagement Editor of IndyStar. The Indiana General Assembly returns Monday for a special session. Originally, Governor Eric Holcomb called the session to get legislative approval to return $1 billion to Hoosiers. During that time, however, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned Roe v. Wade, putting the issue of abortion rights front and center. As many expected, Indiana lawmakers would use the special session to also address abortion. Senate leaders did just that Wednesday during a press conference when they introduced Senate Bill 1, which will restrict abortion to only cases of incest, rape, or when the life of the mother is in danger. Joining me today for this important conversation is Katie Blair, Director of Advocacy and Public Policy for the American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana. Welcome, Katie.
Hello, thank you for having me I wish these were under better circumstances, but I'm happy to be here talking to you today.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And I do want to make clear, we invited the Indiana Right to Life to participate in this discussion, and they declined, as is their right to do. Katie, I know you're busy this week, so let's get right to it.
Yes.
Busy is probably an understatement, huh?
Yes.
We now know what the Senate bill, known as Senate Bill 1, looks like. The proposed bill, as I said earlier, will ban abortions, except in the case of incest, rape, and situations where the mother's life is in jeopardy. What are the next steps in the process to creating this legislation?
Yes. So the next steps, special session comes in on the 25th, so on Monday. And this bill is starting in the Senate and is scheduled for a hearing both on Monday afternoon and on Tuesday morning. That's a time where the public can come in, give testimony, and weigh in on this piece of legislation. You can also do it by contacting your lawmakers and all those things, but that's when you can testify. It'll have to go through the entire process. It'll go through the committee in the Senate, go to the entire Senate, have to be voted through, and then it will switch houses and go to the House of Representatives and do the same thing. So there will be another time for testimony, and it'll have to go all the way through that process. Then if something comes out from there, and both caucuses can agree on it, then it will go to the governor's desk where the governor will have to sign it, and it will go into effect, and whatever the way the bill says is the effective date.
Thank you. As you were speaking, so this session is not necessarily shorter as far as the process is the exact same as it always is for any legislation. It just happens to be at a different time.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So, and people will still have the ability to come and testify, like you said, and contact the legislators about this issue if they want their voices heard.
Absolutely. And the hearings have been, for the Senate side, are going to be on Monday afternoon from 1 to 5 and on Tuesday morning from 9 to noon. And in the House, it hasn't yet been determined that people will be able to testify, but right now I am speculating that people will be able to testify in the House.
Okay, thank you. So what is ACLU's role in this issue? Why is the right to an abortion important to your organization?
Yeah, well, we believe that women should have the right to have the freedom to decide if and when to become pregnant. And we know that women will not live in an equal society unless they have access to reproductive health care, including abortion. This is what determines a woman's future, what determines, her future. Sorry, I just kind of got caught up because I get so I'm so revved up about this. But this is crucial for women and for our abilities to live in a free and equal society.
And I understand you getting caught up because I know, speaking with you earlier, this is an issue that gets you fired up and understandable.
Yeah, so many women that I've talked to, and so many, folks that really care about this issue are more passionate and fired up, ready to go than I've seen on any issue that I've worked on here at the ACLU.
Well, and I want to, because you said something that is key to a lot of people, particularly some women, reproductive health care. As we focus the issue on abortion, but you're talking about reproductive health care overall. How does abortion play into reproductive health care?
Well, abortion is healthcare, and that's an important thing to recognize. Abortion is healthcare. It is crucial for women to both decide their futures and also to decide their health and their outcomes in that area. Because not every pregnancy is life threatening, but there can be some really scary complications that might not threaten a life, but will threaten a woman's ability to live her life. And that's important to consider in this conversation.
Okay. Now, I noticed we talked about the woman's, in cases when the woman's life is in jeopardy, but I noticed the exception didn't include when the baby's life is in danger. I'm going to ask you to speculate here. Does that ever happen, first of all, where the baby's life is in danger? And why do you think the proposed bill offers an exception for the mother, but not the baby?
So how it is written, this bill is very confusing, and the language changes. Sometimes it's contradictory. And so it's a very hard thing to wrap our head around as we're looking at it. It really is being determined in several different ways. And so that's kind of my answer to this, is that where we're starting with this bill is not a very clear place to start. And I think that we're going to have to watch it through the process to see how things get ironed out to understand that language.
Okay. And actually, it could change as it moves through the session.
It could very well change. And I know that there are some lawmakers that are happy with the exceptions as they are right now. There are some lawmakers that think there should be no exceptions. There are some lawmakers that think that rape and incest should be taken out because they claim that women only lie about being raped, which we know is not the truth. And then there are some lawmakers who think that this bill is bad and shouldn't be introduced at all.
Okay, thank you. So some are saying this reminds them of RFRA, Religious Freedom Restoration Act, passed by the Indiana General Assembly and signed by then Governor Mike Pence.
Part of this business letter is also, it is representing their businesses from over 30 Indiana cities and towns, which is quite a feat. And that's something that I've really taken note of. And another thing to take a note of is on the 4th of July weekend, so the week after our rally, Hoosiers in Tell City, Indiana, so way down south, they had planned a 30-person rally and over 150 showed up. And that's what we're seeing across the board, across outstate as well. Sorry, you got me going.
No, no, you're fine. So this issue is really energizing and engaging women who probably had never been at a protest, done anything like this before. It's really, I guess, galvanized a lot of women around this issue. You're saying 5,000 women were at your rally at the State House.
Yeah, and
that's a huge amount of women.
I talked to a woman just yesterday who said that our rally was the first rally she'd ever been to, and that she had always, she didn't want to consider herself, like a, somebody who would hold a sign and everything. And she got to our rally and she, felt the energy and she was like up in front and ready to go. So it's great to see people mobilized like this.
And so, and I'm probably repeating myself, but what do you think is making women be so outspoken all of a sudden for these women who have never been outspoken before, who have usually quiet and, like you're coming from all over Indiana to come to the State House?
Yeah, well, they're stripping away our rights to live our lives equally to men. I mean, they've stripped away this critical aspect of reproductive health care, abortion, and we're mad. And I don't blame folks for wanting to come to the state house and speak out. It's something that I think a lot of people didn't think was ever going to happen, and it did. And so now we're all trying to figure out how to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Now, and you just said this, that lawmakers have chipped away at abortion rights. And we talked about this earlier. They've been chipping away at it for years. And the overturn of Roe v. Wade actually takes away rights. Supreme Court actually has taken away rights. There's a lot of talk here that it was never in the Constitution as a constitutional right in the first place. So can you elaborate on the idea of stripping away rights versus giving people rights, and that this idea that it's never in the Constitution, so it's not a right, it's not a guaranteed right for women in the first place?
Yeah, that's what some folks are saying. So I would say with this Dobbs decision and the decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court, for the first time ever, decided to throw in the trash 50 years of case law and overturn, a decision that had already been made by the Supreme Court. That is something that we never, folks never really saw in the books. And so I think that's an important thing to talk about. So while some folks will say like, oh, well, they said you didn't have a right in the first place. Well, they overturned 50 years of case law. It's really important to remember that as well.
If we could just stay there just for a couple more minutes. I know we're talking about the special session coming up, but I think this idea of overturning 50 years of case law, we kind of need to pause there for just a little bit and just talk about what that can mean in other realms of our society. Because I often think you can be pro or against anything, but when you start talking about stripping away rights, one of my fears and one of many people's fears is that eventually they're going to get to your right, and this idea that America is where we have rights to choose for you. But when we're talking about stripping away rights, how do you foresee that potentially playing out down the road if we keep going down this path?
Absolutely. I think everyone should be concerned about this. Certainly Justice Clarence Thomas's remarks after this decision came down are very troubling. He alluded to certain kinds of contraception, and then he alluded to same-sex marriage. I'm a woman who is in a 6-year marriage with my wife, and that really frightens me. He also talked about the Loving case, so that made interracial marriage legal. So, those are some pretty important rights that he drilled down on there, and then where else we'll go, who knows?
So you've already explained the steps that will be taken for this proposed bill becomes law. And you've kind of talked a little bit about what Hoosiers can do. But I want to go back before we close this out. I want to go back and just again reiterate what people can do to make their voices heard during this special session, which has to end by, August 14th?
Yeah.
Has to end by August 14th. So there's not a lot of time here for these bills, and there's more than one bill actually in the process, but there's not a lot of time here for things to move through.
Exactly. And it may even be shorter than that. By statute, they have to be done by the 14th, but they could decide to close up shop earlier if they, start moving these bills through quickly, which it looks like they may do. So there are a few things. Contact your lawmaker. If your lawmaker is good on this issue, thank them. Good on this issue, meaning on my side, people who do not support an abortion ban, thank them for their hard work. And if you've got a Republican lawmaker, tell them, that you are against any ban on abortion. This is going to the Senate Rules Committee. You can find out information on who sits on that committee on the Indiana General Assembly website, and you can contact them and say, that we do not support an abortion ban. Other things you can do, my organization is hosting a rally at 11:30 a.m. at the State House on Monday. We have some great dynamic speakers. Get there early because you have to get through security. So we're telling people to get there at least an hour early. And then there's, if you own a business or know of a business owner, have folks sign up to our Don't Ban Equality business letter. We're really building a huge base of support there. And it's important that you let your clients and employees and customers know that you stand with us.
Well, Katie, I thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for this chat about the upcoming session. I think you've given some information that a lot of people really want to know. They want to know what to do next. This special session, well, it's not the first time we've ever had a special session. It's one that has really been front and center for a lot of people in the last few weeks and kind of waiting around on this to happen. The idea of giving people $225 back has totally changed, and people are now paying attention for a different reason to this session. So thank you so much for your time, and you have a great day.
Well, thank you. Yes, same to you. Bye.